Thursday, guys. I'm going to go through some end-of-year 8th grade math questions. Hopefully you are finished with goal 4 and 5, but if not, please check out my other video. So number 1 says, in Mr. DeLong's math class, players in any math game must represent their scores with a math expression. Arthur's game score is represented by this expression, and it says, what is his score? So this is just a radical expression where we would need to find the square root of 144, which is 12, because 12 times 12 is 144. And then we would just follow out the division by dividing by 3, and Arthur's score should be a 4. Number 2, it says which expression is equivalent. So you can easily grab your calculator on this one, but the rule would be like you just multiply your first numbers and add your exponents for multiplication. But just to make it a little bit easier, I'm going to multiply the 4 times 10 raised to the 6th power by the 1.03 or 1 3/100. And that's going to give me 4.12, and that would be 4.12 times 10 to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 4.12 times 10 to the 6th. And again, you could also have done 4 times 10 to the 6th. That would be the same as multiplying it times 1.03 times 10 to the 0, because your first number is already a number between 1 and 10. And you would just multiply the first numbers and add your exponents, and you would still get C. I'm going to skip around a little bit. Number 4, a square has an area of 64 square units, and a cube has a volume of 64 cubic units. What is the difference in the side length of the square and the length of one edge of your cube? So if you have a square and the area is 64, you would just do the square root to get one side, and that would be 8, right? And then if you have a cube, never been good at drawing these, but so if you have a cube whose volume is 64, since it's a cube, that's 3-dimensional. So you wouldn't find the square root, you would find the cube root of 64, and that's going to be 4. That would be one side length. So you end up having a side length of 8 for your square and a side length of 4 for your cube. And it just asked, what is the difference in the side lengths? So you would just do 8 minus 4, and that's going to give you 4 units as the difference, and that would be C. Number 6, it says in 2008, a computer software company had approximately 1.4 times 10 to the $6 in revenue. In 2010, the company's revenue was approximately 1.2 times 10 to the $8. About how many times more did the company make in 2010 than 2008? So anytime it says about how many times more, you would undo times by division. So you're going to take the larger, in this case, because it made more in 2010. So you're going to put 2010's revenue in the numerator, and you're going to put 2008's revenue in the denominator, and then you just divide them out. So the rule is you divide your first numbers and subtract your exponents. So you could easily do that. So if we did 1.2 divided by 1.4, and that's going to give me, we're just going to say 0.86. So when I divide my first numbers, and then you would subtract your exponents and keep the base. So 8 minus 6 would give you 10 squared. And then all of your answers are just numbers. So that's just telling me I need to move my decimal 2 places to the right. So it is 86 times larger, and that would match B for number 6. All right, moving on. This is number 7 is very similar to the last question we did. So here we're going to start comparing slopes and y-intercepts. So you have a reliable auto care that has this equation, the y equals 55x, where y is the labor cost for a car repair based on x hours of work. And then the table below shows the labor cost at city auto repair for different numbers of hours worked. And it's asking you about which one's charging more per hour. The per is a key word that they are comparing the slope. So we can easily say that reliable auto care slope is 55. And then you just need to figure out what the slope is for city auto repair. You pick two ordered pairs, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So you would have 100 over 2. So city auto repair is the $50. So if you look at it, there's $5 difference. So reliable auto care charges $5 more per hour for labor, and that is correct. B says that city auto is $5 more, but that's not true. And then city auto repair charges $45 more per hour. That's not true either. So A would be your best bet for number 8. Number 9 is very similar to question 8, so look at that for reference. 10, again, they're talking about per hour, so you're going to be comparing slopes. Number 11 is just asking you which graph correctly represents the information. So you're just looking at these as ordered pairs, like you should have a point at the origin, a point at 2, 4. So I'm going to start there. I have a point at the origin, and I have a point at 2, 4. So far that one's good to go. I'll come back to that one if the others also meet the criteria. Here I do not have a point at the origin, so B is eliminated. C, I have a point at the origin, but I do not have a point at 2, 4. So C is also eliminated. And then D is eliminated because I do not have a point at the origin nor 2, 4. So A should align with all of these ordered pairs. A point at 3, 6, correct. 4, 8, and 6, 12. So A is the graph that matches the table. Now, question 12 is talking about equations and solving them. Just to recap, equations are never going to have two solutions. You'll get into that in Math 1, and that's going to be quadratics. So when you're solving an equation right now for 8th grade math, you should never get two solutions. No solution occurs when you have everything cancels out but like your numeric answer. So it could be like 6 equals 4. That would be an example of no solution. One solution is where everything actually is isolated and you're just left with your variable. So like x equals 6. And then infinitely many solutions would be when you cancel out your variables, but you are left with 6 equals 6 as your final answer. So if we look at this equation, I can combine like terms on the left. That's going to give me x plus 4. And then I can also combine like terms on the right. 2 plus 2 is 4. And if you haven't seen it already, these guys are the exact same thing. And when you try to isolate your number, your variables cancel out, and you're left with 4 equals 4. That is always true. So this solution would be infinitely many solutions. 13 would be referring to no solution, so it's asking you which one of your equations would have no solution. Number 14, it gives you 4 students, and it says which 2 students wrote equations that have no solution. Well, for BTO, we would end up eliminating the variables, and you would be left with 0 equals 5, so that is definitely a no solution. Lila, you had the exact same thing on both sides, so this one would be infinitely many solutions. Over here, if we add in to both sides, our variables cancel out, and we're left with 6 equals 2. That is definitely a no solution. And then lastly, when you subtract 2u, you would be left with 6u minus 2 equals 8. Therefore, nothing is going to cancel out. So this one's going to actually be one solution. So our no solution components will be Beto and Mark. Beto and Mark. All right. 15, I feel like you guys can solve that equation. Remember to distribute first. Number 16, it says to solve the given equation for x. So we would subtract 3 on both sides. That's going to give us x minus 9 equals 8. And then your last step is not to divide by 9, but to multiply by 9, because that's the opposite of the division. So you would actually get 72. And that would be your answer for number 16. Skipping around, it says a linear system of equations is graphed below. And it says which ordered pair is the answer. So this kind of came out on 2 different pages for me. But assuming they graphed them correctly, that one's graphed correctly. Yep, they're both graphed correctly. When you graph in a system of equations, their answer is the intersection point. So I see that they intersect right here, and that's going to be at 2, 6. So C would be the solution to the system. I'm going to stop there for today. That is 1 through 19. I hope you guys are able to do the other ones. If you need any help on those, just shout at me.